Welcome to season 5 of the Bodcast, episode 1. And I don't know, we're getting up there with Lost, I think. How many seasons were they?
Too many.
Too many.
Problem with Lost, we got too many.
Actually got to 5 and
well, for podcast, you can never have too many. So we're good on that front. Unlike, seasons where I think they should stop at 2 or 3.
Yeah, especially when the story starts.
Although, what's annoying is, like, recently there's been a lot of shows cancelled early. You really start getting into a show, and suddenly you realise there's no more seasons, but it never finished. You're like,
coming back.
It's so true. It's so true.
Mad.
It's gutting because they become part of your life.
I guess that's why sometimes it's nice to watch stuff that's in books that's been written that has to end. So if you've read it,
or go back and watch something from that you know's got 5 seasons,
millions of seasons. Yeah.
And you can just watch it, because I actually only ever watch TV in the evening. Otherwise I do have it on during the day, but just as background noise.
Yeah.
So I might look it up. So
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's the beauty of podcasts. We'll never leave you hanging. COVID will not stop us recording.
As long as there's Zoom and internet.
As long as there's Zoom and internet, we are good.
Exactly.
So this episode is just the 3 of us, and we're going to have a general catch up as, it's been about a month, I think, since we ended
3-4
season 4. And since that time, Leon's been injured. Andy has become the Wolf of Wall Street. I'm taking anabolics. I mean, a lot's going on. So,
like,
no, I'm not.
That's
I'm
why.
not. You can't.
Yeah, exactly.
Anabolic. But Andy, tell us what's going on in your training, in your nutrition.
Yeah, so I'm still bulking, weight-wise, I'm right up for, for the condition, the heaviest I've been heavier, but so I'm sitting around, this morning, nearly 209 pounds,
Nice.
Relatively lean for me. I hold weight, I hold fat asymmetrically, so that my shoulders, chest, upper back, most parts of my body are really lean, and then, my lower abs look like, we're covered in some sort of woolen coat. But that's okay, but we are going to be starting prep soon. Nice long prep. So
How many weeks?
We're probably 2 more weeks. I think 3rd week of May. We're going to check the day. We'll start prep for October. So the aim is to come in early.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then come in early, pick up maybe any other shows if I'm in nice and early, or if I don't, if we're still trying to push it, at least we've got a long time to go. So, we can do some mock peak weeks, we can have a little play around, refills and stuff. So pretty happy with where I am at the moment. I'm in a pretty good place to start prep. Everything, just ticking the boxes. My life is pretty much, as always, same meals, just like food's right up at the moment. And I can grow, and I do grow on pretty much anything from a 3,000, late 2,000s to 3,000 calories, I'll grow. But at the moment, I'm about 3,500 for the next couple of weeks. So
that's a decent amount of calories.
Yep.
Yeah. Andy has frozen.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully he'll be back soon. But looking at you're back.
There you go.
You froze to me. I was like, hang on, let's say I froze and you froze.
That's your job. It's just saying, or about to say, like, from the photos that you post on your stories, that you've really grown. It's so noticeable.
Good.
Yeah, the problem is, like, we've had to really reduce back volume because my back grows a lot quicker than the front.
Yeah.
So we're now trying to put a bit more effort into building the chest out, shoulders all right, building the chest. I've got where my insertions are on my chest. I've got quite a short but thick chest. So we just got to make it thicker so it doesn't look smaller.
Yeah.
Which means I've got my chest looks better in like a side shot than it does a front on shot. But I'm okay. You can only play with cards you're dealt. So I've got a decent back shape. Just got to add a little bit more thickness. So there's a lot more rowing movements in with sort of close grip rowing type movements. Just sort of work on that thickness. A lot of weird, like today I've got a pull session, but it's not really, it's like almost an accessory pull session. So mainly like traps and rear delts and some rotator cuff movements. And actually I found that last week I could barely move my arms because from years of playing rugby, my rotator cuffs just don't like additional exercises. They're like, I'm trying to lift my hand last week. I was like, nope. It wasn't so much for the delts as much as it was inside the shoulder. The muscles there were like, no, don't fancy it.
Okay.
So,
I mean, is that from just impact in rugby or from?
So what most common rugby injury related surgery, and so many players get this, is the shoulder dislocations because rotator cuff becomes loose.
Yeah.
Everything gets stretched from like reaching out to tackle your arm, bending back, pulling on the joint. Everything gets stretched a little bit in there. So with surgery, we rebraid all the muscles and tighten them back up, and all the tendons. So that's really quite common. Like a lot of rugby players go through dislocating shoulders and stuff. So that's quite common. So rotator cuff. I've had problems with rotator cuffs before. I do a lot of rotator cuff stretching, like the salute stretch, where you lay on the ground and push your hand against your head and try and get your elbows to touch the floor. That's something I do regularly anyway because I'm prone to tight rotator cuffs. But pretty good. Like last week, the last check-in photos, because that a couple of sessions like that, my traps and rear delts looked a lot better. So I was like, pretty happy. But I'm looking forward to prep actually. I've been bulking now since 2019 with obviously cuts in between, but it's been a long time. So nice to get shredded. You find yourself looking back at photos, you go, it's gonna be nice to be shredded, but it's just what's left after. It's all nice, at a moment you feel like nice and strong, full and look decent clothes on, but like when people don't realize, it's like, yes, once you cut fat away, you are going to reduce that muscle volume a little bit. So it's just trying to minimize that muscle loss to see what's actually left. It's something I've been talking to because I've got my new clients on board and they're all like, calories are relatively high. I was like, because you've been probably under eating a lot. What the game is of weight loss. We're not in the game of weight loss, we're in the game of body recomposition, in the game of giving you your best body. And a big part of that is trying to, as you lose weight, maintain that muscle. Any muscle you do have, just try to maintain that as much as possible. So when you lose the body fat, your body actually looks like it does train and does exercise. So, and that's the same with everyone. And it's even more so, that is the name of the game when doing comp prep. Great. I've seen guys who look brilliant in the off season. When they hit stage, they're like a shadow of themselves because they've probably given themselves too short a window to get ready for. They've run themselves flat into a show and just can't refill.
Over diet, over cardio.
So that's why the longer the prep you can have is probably better because then you can minimize running in flat. You've got enough time to refill and get a bit more volume back to the muscles if you need it. You can put calories slightly to maintenance for a spell.
I think I'd prefer doing that, a longer one, and then have time to come to maintenance so that you're not freaking out. But I guess it is so tempting to do that if you're coaching yourself, to just overdo it because you're scared that
I think like people are scared of starting prep too early because they worry that they haven't made enough gains in their off season. But if you've had this is a problem, a lot of people don't have coaches in the off season.
Yeah.
If you don't have a structured off season, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, female competitor, and I said, yeah, you need, before you get on stage, everyone needs a structured off season.
Yeah.
Without that, it doesn't matter if you've got a coach to prep or not. If you haven't done the work in the off season under control, you know, come when you start prepping yourself, you know, you're starting from a position of being disadvantaged. Unless you've had a really good, like you've really managed your off season properly, a lot of people just, you know, eat what they want, do what they want.
You just wing it,
and
think that you don't need the structure, and that's, you really do.
And the thing is, then you start prepping on the back foot, and then a lot of people leave it late because they enjoy that unstructured off season. So they give themselves like 12 weeks. I've seen people try to do it in 8 weeks. And you know, you just kind of throw yourself off a cliff a little bit.
But the thing is, with that 8 to 12 weeks, it'll be from eating 4,000 calories, maybe half is crap. The next day they go to 1 hour cardio and eating 1,500 calories. And most people, you'll notice, do that. It's like prep is just cut food, lose weight, do cardio. No one cares. And they forget it's, at the end of the day, it's bodybuilding. It's not who weighs the least on stage. Or
that's actually the off season, why the off season is the most important part of that, because it is bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to build your body. Prep is about maintaining what you've built, removing the fat, you know, and people forget this. You know, so the off season is actually should be the hardest part of anything, and that's because, you know, it should be quite regimented and, you know, control the amount of food you take in and increase the amount of food over a period, so you can start prep in a good position to come down. And that's kind of, you know, why, you know, I've got high calories at the moment. Come when I start prep, we only have to take off a little bit to start seeing me lose weight.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably finish prep probably not too far under 2,000 calories. I couldn't imagine. Yeah, I've had 1,700 before, so I'm okay with that. Anything over 2,000, you know. But I think that's where people get comp prep wrong. And even the pros nowadays have longer preps than they used to.
Mm-hmm.
And they have all the anabolic assistance of, you know, things like, you know, clenbuterol, T3, tren, you know, all this stuff, and you know, where, and they still do it longer than 12 weeks, you know?
Yeah.
So,
no, it's interesting, and oh, and he's frozen. With my client, you're back. I was just saying, with my clients, I always tell them, you know, none of them are bodybuilders, but I use bodybuilders as an analogy, in that, you know, the off season, the maintenance is so important, you know, taking time, you know, minimum 3 months to, you know, build your calories up, because I'd say 90% of people are under eating intentionally, not. And like you say, it is the most important period, you know, and that is when you need a coach, because mentally it's very hard, because you're seemingly going away from what you want, but it is very.
I think people underestimate how much protein they should be having.
Yeah.
People are left to their own devices. So when you give them a training plan, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm struggling to hit the protein targets. Where you're like, well, yeah, because you've been under eating protein for so long.
Yeah.
And as you get older, I think I did a post on this. You need a bit more protein. So, you know, and the harder you train, the more protein you need. So, yeah. So, you know, the big thing is, if you don't structure like the muscle building phase properly, people will just be under eating. Because by instinct, when you've had years of under eating or years of not having enough protein, you know, it always, you know, it's hard to get those sort of natural abilities of getting enough, you know.
It's
unstructured, you just miss it.
Really, really hard. Protein is, everyone struggles with that. And I don't know, I never have, but I think you've just got to make sure, like you say, you're regimented and you're getting it in every single meal. Because if you miss out, like, 'cause a lot of people will just have a carby breakfast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just make sure at every meal you're getting in a decent amount of protein, and you won't get to the end of the day with 100 grams of protein left to eat. But it does take planning. But it is very, very doable.
As I've said to some new clients, is like initially I always try to, I overconsume protein, right? But that's because I have meat in every meal across the day. I have the same meals across the day, but I don't mind over consuming protein because I'd rather over consume protein and be less on everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But what I say to a lot of new clients is whey protein's gonna have to become your friend to try and squeeze in maybe an extra 2 meals, get a bit more protein in pre-training and post-training. And I think that's, hearing what people have before we go to the gyms, I always laugh and go, well, you expect to work out after consuming that little calories, no real value to your body, So as I say, to all of them, bump your carbs up before training, put a bit of protein in there. After training, have a similar meal with lots of protein in, easy. And then, if you structure your day around your training window, then it's relatively easy, of like adding, where do I need to add something else in?
Mm-hmm.
Make a bit more protein in the breakfast, maybe a little bit more protein in the evening, but like I know I've hit that sort of training window with required amounts, and I think you can do that, you're winning. But also, it does take time to perfect these things. I've been saying this a lot to people recently. It's progress over perfection. If you've been years of doing something, people can't just expect you to be perfect out the gate. And you shouldn't expect yourself to be perfect.
Yeah.
Part of the progress is trying to get those macros right over the first few weeks of a training program. And then once you hit them, continue those a couple more weeks, 3 more weeks, and then maybe we'll change them a bit more.
Yeah, no, I think people do, again, it's that kind of all or nothing. They're like, oh, I've got to hit everything to a T. And you're like, we don't always hit it to a T. It takes time to find out how things fit into your lifestyle. Whether, like just getting used to eating that much protein, maybe you're someone who likes carbs at night, maybe you're someone who doesn't, if you've got kids, just, trying to figure it all out it really does take time, but tracking macros and calories can be daunting at first. You're like, I'll never get the hang of it, but after a month, I say it almost becomes your sort of second nature, and it's actually
consistency is what will. And I always say this: consistency may seem boring having the same meals, but actually it just takes out the headache of trying to balance things daily. I'll eat the same meals purely for that reason, because I know that hits my macros. So it takes out that headache. Yes, I could have variety, and sometimes I do. Like on a Sunday, maybe I'll make a roast dinner. But then on Sunday morning, I'm restructuring my fitness pal around that meal. What do I need to do with these other meals to make that work?
Yeah, no, and I think it's like we have the same meals, maybe not in exactly the same order every day, but same, and it makes it easy because you can just save your meals on MyFitnessPal, and it's just really quick to input everything. And
I don't often see. I will start again in prep, but I've stopped inputting daily on MyFitnessPal. So now I'm eating the same. When my macros change, I'll do a couple of days where I'm like, okay, that hits my macros, so I've just got to make sure I have, instead of 200 grams of rice, 250 grams of rice to that meal. Bit more carbs around the training window.
I would input the first day, find out what the macros calories are, and then I'll wait for the next
change.
And then it's like Claire said, it reaches a point, it's the same thing, same measurements, same sort of time you eat, and unless maybe over the weekend you have something different, it's just the same. And
people think like tracking macros is rocket science. It really isn't rocket science at all. And like when if you are someone who does eat the same things, like, Andy and Leon say, you don't even have to input it, because you know what you're eating. And it's easy.
And
it
then
really
it
is.
makes like eyeballing food just becomes almost a talent. you know.
Yeah, if you eat the same food every day, you know roughly what that plate of food should look like.
Except peanut butter. That one is no, you did a reel on it. Like, you can't ever
peanut butter,
get
oats.
peanut butter.
I find oats quite hard to eyeball.
Yeah.
You know what?
Chocolate.
Carb powder.
What?
Carbex powder.
Oh.
Because a scoop's it's maybe 25 grams a serving, but a scoop's 30 grams for some reason.
I know.
And every time you do it, you're like, hang on, and you got to take a little bit out, and you're like,
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, there's some foods you just have to be honest. Like, yeah,
no, you got to weigh that.
For me, peanut butter, and I'd easily do 100 a day and call it 30.
Like people who are like, I'll have a tablespoon. And you're like, there's a tablespoon, and then there's a tablespoon.
Yeah.
There's a hungry tablespoon where you dive that bit out, and you're like, that's a tablespoon, got me.
And that's actually where, if you are in a deficit, that can make or break it, because those highly calorie dense foods, if you go over, that's a couple of hundred calories. Well, it could be a couple of hundred calories. And that's why it really is, it's a little tip here, to weigh it from the jar, because then it takes into account everything on your spoon, because you can have I would say 10 grams on your spoon, and then you just lick that, that doesn't count.
That's peanut butter. There's no way.
That's 100 calories.
There's no way you're going to say I had a spoon now.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's like, and this is what I tell people this a lot. When you're not being mindful, you're not tracking things like sauces, spreads, anything like that, like ketchup. What is a tablespoon of ketchup? What is you're better off doing it in weight and just finding out, little cap of whatever, stick it on, say, your plate. It's like, gravy and things like that. I'm going to make some gravy. Follow the instructions on that. That is matching their calories, great. But then you get a big ladle instead of, it's like, well, how much was that? It's different every time.
Yeah, those foods, I say, for a serving, everyone has a different idea for what a serving of ketchup or peanut butter or gravy is, and you'll never have the same unless you sort of measure it or portion it out. It'll always be different for everyone else.
Yeah, it will. Well, Leon's had a hard time recently. His glutes are just too big.
Yes, tell us.
Yeah, so tell us about your poor old glutes. Well, the physio was so impressed with his glutes. I mean, he's got a nice butt.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do anything to make it grow. It's just
show winning glutes.
Show winning glutes.
Well, it would be if you could walk on stage.
Yeah, she well, at least
take us to the
they
beginning.
Match the hamstring, so I'm good with that. So, but yeah, it's where do I start? Yeah, when was it? 2 weeks ago, I think. I was playing. I was done with work, so I was playing.
Well, you just had a deload.
Yes, I'd had a deload, so I was back in the first. It's a new phase of training, so it was my first rotation. So first week, first leg workout.
He was very excited.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed. So
did split squats.
Oh yeah, very, very heavy. But well, I'm not sure if that's the cause of the problem, but happened Thursday. Then Friday afternoon, I was sitting, just playing on the phone with Zuli. And then I think Clea was cooking or something, as always. But yeah, I stood up and took 3 steps and my glute just went on fire and I couldn't move. So I took another step and it gets worse. And Clea thought I was joking, and I'm like, man, my glute is...
Well, he is quite dramatic, so I had to check.
I'm like, I can't move. So when I sat down, it felt amazing. I stand up, same thing. So tried painkillers, nothing. Brufen, Panadol, nothing.
It was so weird because it was...
Yeah, in the afternoon.
It wasn't
day and
muscular.
Yeah.
It wasn't nervy.
It was just hot, really...
Like I could feel the heat coming off.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
inflamed.
and I couldn't walk, so scheduled. Well, I did Feldenkrais first the next day, and it cooled down for about an hour or so, an hour or two. Then came back, so that's when we decided maybe physio is good. So I booked a physio. Following week, went to the physio, and she did the assessment. So
This is Eileen. She's
Yeah,
amazing. She's worked with the English rugby team,
and cricket.
cricket team. She works for the Kenya Sevens.
Yeah,
So she's worked with a lot of athletes.
Yeah, she was in same school as JP, Loughborough. So
Yeah.
a very amazing sports exercise science school.
Sorry.
But yeah, she did the assessments and then she came up with two. It could either be the glute bursa, so bursitis, inflammation of the
that's painful.
bursa on the.
Didn't know there were bursa in the glutes. I've heard of.
No, I didn't actually. I knew because I've had the problem in my elbow, so I know about the elbow ones, and I know about things on like other joints.
Yeah, this is like muscle. It's
So
not
tell us
even
what a
joint.
bursa is. I don't think most people will know what that is.
Bursas are, what do you call them? Elements, or they're like how do I say?
They're
I'll
really
call
like
them
the shock
elements.
absorbers.
Yeah,
they really look like little
in between most
capsules.
joints.
Yeah.
Shock absorber capsules.
And they've got fluid in them. And so what happens when something inflames? Those bursas release a lot of fluid around an injured area, joint as well. So it's like we have two jobs.
So it controls like friction between joints, most
Yeah.
shoulders, elbows, knees.
Glutes.
Weirdly enough, the glute one is in between muscle, so it's not really even on the pelvis or hip.
it's
So,
No, it's
The really interesting one, yeah.
that's why when physio checked it, she said she'd only dealt with one before. So this was like
a
number
rugby
2.
player with big glutes.
But yeah, so the bursa on the glute is under the glute medius, and she came up with a conclusion that it had inflamed. So any movement, the glute med would push on the bursa and cause the inflammation, and
that fiery pain, because it was.
And that last thing you don't want is that thing to burst.
Oh yeah.
Because then it doesn't. From as far as I'm aware, it doesn't repair itself as such.
Yeah,
you just end up with like love fluid in the joint or under the muscle there. It'd be a bit weird.
I wonder what you do when that happens.
Yeah, and so she thought it was the bursa or the cluneal nerve, which was also a new nerve I found out, which comes across the glute. So from your lower back into the glute. So she thought it had been impinged. So when we started treating, she did both, let's say, protocols for the cluneal nerve and the bursa, which is about the same, because if it's the nerve, it's just to make the glute relax and sort of stop pinching on the nerve. And if it's the bursa, it's number one is to kill inflammation. So a bit of anti-inflammatories, and she gave me some small movements to do, did dry needling, which is when she dry needled my glutes and they went into like super twitch activation mode, and she was impressed, I guess.
Never seen that before. She took a video.
Yeah, so
you can just imagine all these bristles on his glutes.
So yeah, the pins were like really twitching, and
I don't know why. I just find that very entertaining.
But yeah, reason was muscle probably had gone into spasm, but now the reason was the big thing. Is it spasm because of the bursitis, or something to do with the cluneal nerve, which means maybe something to do with my IT band all the way to my thoracic spine area. So nothing serious, but it's just more like what caused it is because it was protecting something. It was being protective. That's why it went into spasm. So I've been treatment for 2 weeks now. Just started doing like more mobility work and activation work, but the first few days it was just kill inflammation, do slight movements, hip, T-spine movements, and then now we've gone into activation, increased more mobility work, and more activation, more mobility. So pretty much no loading yet until she gives me the go ahead next week. So I've been missing the walks, which was starting to get to me mentally.
Mhm.
Well, training, I knew I'd get back to training. Like I've had worse injuries, so it didn't really get to me much. But yeah, I kind of realized I miss my walks, the just
Yeah.
to move around. Like it's really sanity time for
Yeah.
me. It's very like, I guess you don't realize these things when you can do them, but after, I'm like, it's an injury, I'll get better. But man, not being able to go for a walk or I guess even lifting weights, but I realized, yeah, just playing with the dog, running around, like
Yeah,
it
things
got
you
to
normally
me.
take for granted. It's
Yeah,
Things that are important for standard of life at any level.
yeah.
because I could sit, when they go for walks, I'd make myself feel better I'd play a small game, maybe just to not think about it.
That's
But
how it starts, though. I know how that starts. When you play a small game and suddenly it's an hour later, and you're like, oh.
yeah,
Mhm.
but for me, I'd play and then they'd go for the walk and come back, and then I'd realize, crap, I missed another walk. So the game help. It's because I enjoy it. It's nice to play the video game, go for the walk, train.
Take it off.
It's more like a hobby rather than something to be like, oh, I'm down. Let me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was nice. It's something new I discovered about myself, which is good. So
Yeah, I'd never heard of any of that. And it
yeah,
just shows again that, these kinds of things, they are minor setbacks in the grand scheme
yeah,
of things, and just worth taking the time off now and making sure it doesn't come back. 'Cause like you say, what
yeah,
if the bursa burst?
I know. Then it's
Then what?
long.
Then it might be a year or
Yeah, who
Yeah,
knows?
exactly. It's a nightmare. I think we have to drain it. I only know about it on the elbow because we thought I had a problem. Well, like years ago, I was telling Leon this.
Yeah,
I fell while I was working in the police, and I thought I broke my elbow.
Mm.
And I went and had an X-ray. And what had happened was I had inflamed bursa,
yeah.
bursitis in my elbow, which is like we said. And if you had burst that, you end up with this massive lumpy thing on your arm.
yeah, because it's fluid.
Fluid just builds up, and you have to syringe it and keep it down. But apparently, I don't think it necessarily repairs. I don't think you can bursa goes back.
Yeah.
You just have, you just have to manage it. Like eventually, I think it starts producing fluid, and I'm not 100% sure about that. But yeah, so I know, like in the elbow, having inflamed bursa was like agony, like to the point where I thought I'd broken my arm.
Yeah, because I can imagine you are in the police, so I mean, you need your arms.
But what did you do?
Yeah.
What did you do to cause it? Was it over time?
So I had bone spurs on my elbows from
Yes.
like inflammation. I think that's what caused the aggravation on the bursa, like friction with a tricep and everything else.
Yeah.
Just inflamed it. But when I landed on it, I sort of
Right.
just made it worse.
Yeah, and personally, to be honest, I go through anatomy charts and I enjoy it, but I'd never looked at a bursa. I'd never this was really the first time I was like, oh, what the hell is a bursa?
Yeah.
So I guess learned something new. I took it positively. I didn't. Because I didn't want to think about it, because I guess when you're on the therapy table and she's like, it could be this and it could be that. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, crap, can I squat? Can I squat? Can I squat?
Well, it's surprising. I'm still blown away that there's a burst just under 2 pieces of muscle.
Yeah.
Those thought they were joint related. I wonder how many more we've got in our body.
Oh, I know.
Just sitting around, just ready to do what we need to do.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, and again, it just highlights, if you have any niggles, they are worth checking out before they become serious, and you will not lose your gains. Leon's not become skinny.
No, it's weird. That's the least of my concerns.
Yeah.
It was more the mental, like I'd come out, Zuli wants to play, or they're going for.
I suppose that's because you've got the good mindset, but once you're back to fitness, you can get it back relatively
quickly.
Yeah, that's where I was like, at least I have it. I was happier. Yeah, it was more the mental, because it's weird. It's the one injury. It's like, most injuries, like, don't stop what you're doing. Just do it this way. This one was
don't
stop.
Move.
Yeah, let it.
Yeah, it's
inflammation.
It's a bit like back injuries, and not touch wood. I've never had a serious, but I know a lot of guys, a lot of people I know who've had some serious like disc issues, and and it ruins your quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you struggle to get out of bed and walk to the kitchen, or walk around your house, do like the normal chores. Getting dressed hurts. And these are sort of, I've had like struggled getting trousers and shorts on before, because if my psoas muscles tight, I've had psoas muscle issues. I struggle to lift like first thing in the morning, I struggle to lift my leg up to get my shorts on. That hurts. But after I've walked around a little bit, it loosens up. Now actually I'm doing, it's not so much of an issue at the moment. We'll see, touch words. But it's these little things that are some of the hardest ones to deal with, because they do impact on your quality of lifestyle life. I remember like both my knee injuries didn't massively affect my standard of life, because I could still hobble around.
Yeah.
And I can still move, and I would hobble to the gym. I'd take crutches, go to the gym, train up a body from a seated position.
Yeah.
But when you can't even walk around without like there being pain, I get a lot of knee pain, and it drives me mad when I'm like, go to walk with dogs. It's like, with dogs, I was like, my knee's just too sore today. It's just too inflamed. Like, because it was impacting my walking with the dogs. And normally walking is not a huge issue. So, and that was just sad, and that was annoying. Let alone if, just trying to walk around the house.
Yeah, no, it's and that's where, when we had if anyone remembers, Jess, she is a therapist, and she deals with sort of injuries, and like how you get through them mentally, because it really does get you down. And I mean, at some point Leon was pretty down, and I mean, you're generally being positive about it, but no one is gonna go through it without having like some really down spells, and especially if it's going to be something long term. Again, it's always worth working through it with.
Did you see Ryan Crowley?
Sorry?
Ryan Crowley, the young British amateur bodybuilder, ripped his pec training with Larry Wills. Ripped his pec like straight off the bone. His whole video. He ripped it in two places actually, because he ripped the muscle to the tendon and tendon off the bone. So, because, and like listening to him talk about his struggle around, mental side, it just, it shows you he's a young guy, and he's put his whole life into essentially bodybuilding. He's at, he was in the States, he's in Dubai, he's sponsored by Jay Cutler Nutrition, but it's little things, and like he retore it trying to get a vest on the other day.
Oh, jeez.
And it wasn't a major tear, like it didn't, but it was a tear, so it set him back to the start of recovery again. And that's hard to deal with when his whole focus on life is to become a pro bodybuilder. And I think that's the important thing, is to actually prioritize your life a little bit more, about what
Internet.
We'll
give it.
Wait,
we're back.
There we go.
You're back. You were saying priorities.
Yeah, so like life priorities, because a pec injury means you can still live your life. You're in a sling, it's a bit annoying, hard to get dressed, but you can walk around, see friends, family, everything else. I think, back injuries and stuff are a little bit harder, because you struggle to move around, or like, with Leon's, it's, you can't go out, get some fresh air and go walk the dogs. So it would upset me. But the reality is this, there's more to life than competitive goals. And as long as you can still, go out, see friends and family, and have, a way of life, I think, it's trying to get your head around that.
Yeah, that's now the hard part, I guess, for depending on the person anyway. Still realizing, okay, I'll be fine, or I can still do that, I can still work, or whatever.
Well, it's, I think, very important to focus on what you can do, what you have got, not what you can't do. And
Yeah, because that's where our brain goes first.
Yeah, but it's also like there is always a way to train around it. Usually, like when Leon gets the green light, he can do upper body. He's got lower body mobility, like Andy with your knees. You can do upper body. If you do have back pain, there's always a way to train around it. And again, that's, as with everything, it's always worth working with a professional.
So it's like in 2003, I was told I should never play rugby or any other contact sport again. I continued. I just did what I could, as I strengthened my legs up best I could. And, it causes me some problems now, but, I'm okay with, the odd bit of pain in my knee because, it meant I lived the life I had. I ripped the tendon off my bicep, one of the heads off my bicep.
Yeah, that's
never fixed it. But, it's like, it doesn't stop you if you don't let it, it's like, I didn't really do much difference with the bicep. It's like, at least because it was only one head, and then I lost a little bit of strength from one arm.
Yeah.
To be fair, it doesn't, it's annoying, asymmetrical issues, but like my day-to-day life's not affected at all by my bicep.
Yeah, it's so important to keep that in mind. And how is have you changed your nutrition since you're not training?
No.
Well, I know this answer.
Oh, yeah.
Weirdly enough, no, it's just
lots
more...
of croissant.
No, that was...
very soothing to bursitis.
That was the birthday time. I enjoyed...
Yeah. Pastry therapy.
Yeah.
The cinnamon rolls, Andy, you have to have it.
Oh, hang on. If I go to Nairobi today...
really,
you've got to do it. If anyone is in Nairobi who listens to the podcast, go to Cultiva and get their cinnamon rolls.
And it's
you will not regret it.
It's one of those, don't buy too many, just buy enough.
No, but they're the perfect
they're
size.
amazing. Like if they're 10.
Leon, there's no such thing as too many.
No, if they're 10.
See me with a cinnamon roll.
If there are 10 of them, you'll finish 10. So unless...
what's the problem? But you say that's too many. I say that's sounds like a perfect amount.
Too good. I had 2, and Cleo's mom was like, "Have one more," and I'm like, "No." Self-control. They're too I love the cronuts. They're like mine, but I think the
cinnamon rolls
they're up there with
perfection.
Really
but apart from that, you've been...
Yeah, I've been on my rest day macros, just like a meal less, where I put back my chocolate because when I was cutting, there was chocolate. Because it was like, what's the one food you really
you want?
For me it's chocolate. So coach kept the chocolate in. So now with my rest day, same macros, I measure out the same. Start my day with my high protein shake, and then in between, I'll throw in maybe chocolate. Like past 2 days, I've had a small bowl of crisps, but my meals are the same. So I'm on my rest day macros, just not as strict as before. More like, I like the sort of 80-20-90-10 rule where my meals are in, but
80-20-90-10, that's a new one.
Oh yeah. No, it's just like I call it the 80-20 mindset, but
80-20-10.
You can eat 90-10 or 80-20, depending on how strict you want to be. But I've brought back my chocolate and a bit of crisps, but everything is the same. Chicken, rice, brought back oats because there were no oats before in my previous plan. So it's there was pasta, rice, and cereal. So I play around with cereal and oats. And nothing's really changed.
Well, I think it's important when you're injured to you've got I think again having that high protein will help with recovery. That's protein's role in your body. So keeping that high, I really do believe helps.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know even when I take rest days, your appetite actually goes. So
it's been hard.
And again, if you're not in the best mental place, a lot of it could go both ways for people. Some might comfort eat, but others just have no appetite. And I guess if you don't have appetite, it's quite important to make yourself eat
mine
to help recovery.
there was a day or two where I was really down, and I think I had 2 meals, and yeah, I was done for the day. I had my shake. I totally forgot to eat. I think I was just overthinking. I was doing work, and it's like it's meal time, and I'm like, then I'd have a banana. Day would go, then I'd have like a bar of chocolate, and yeah, evening is there. I have my second meal. So the next day is when I was like, you know what, let me snap out of it. But yeah, it's one of those.
That's the thing. I'm the opposite. I'm a comfort eater. Like, if I'm stressed, I want to eat everything.
Oh, mine is.
So, I am a stress-related eater, but that's why I keep meals in. Now, I suppose for you, if you can keep your meals in, as soon as you get back to training, you wouldn't have lost much. It's like missing meals is what I make, see a bit of deflation in the body. But, any increase in body fat will probably go again quite over the next few weeks as you increase activity levels.
Yeah, it's been.
Because I've been doing manual caliper tests and.
Yeah, he's a pork scratching. He's about 40% body fat because we only take him from stupid areas.
No, been able to maintain my weight nicely. I don't do anything under 4 meals. Even if it's because for me it's different. If I don't train or I'm feeling down, my appetite just goes. So I have been doing. It's been good. I've been just keeping the mindset that I'm getting better. I'm ready. I'm ready to go back to training. So no rush as long as I can get better, so that when I start training, I'm in a good place. So.
Well, I know we harp on about it a lot, and we're always discussing it. It's like we should just have a t-shirt that says "Master the Basics."
Oh yeah.
When you get these like good routines, good habits, like getting your meals in, things like that, when you do have setbacks like injuries, not everything gets thrown out the window. You can get your meals in, you have a good mindset.
Yeah.
That's why spending time just getting all those big rocks in place helps you in so many aspects of your life. Big time.
Yeah, you make them a habit. You make them a habit, and they become easy.
Yeah,
They do. They become easy, and it's nice to have some semblance of control when so much is out of control, like with injuries.
Yeah.
Controlling your nutrition and knowing that you are helping your body as best you can. It just adds a nice element of control, which helps with keeping a positive mindset.
The lady who printed our revamp hoodies.
For Master the Basics t-shirt. Yeah, consistency.
The
Master the Basics. Can never go
amazing.
on about that enough.
It's just.
That's the thing. People want to skip the foundations, and when you build with poor foundations, the building always falls down.
Oh yeah, you can.
It does, and I don't know. It's just. Even the smartest people will want to skip ahead, and you just have to be like, let's just take it.
Yeah.
And
humans are just impatient. I think as a species, we're a very impatient species. We want everything done immediately. We want to be, cover model lean or for the Instagram straight away. When in fact, actually, how long did it take you to get out of shape? Overnight, was it? It takes months, years to get out of shape. So it takes time to get back into shape. So
usually the hardest part for people when they're like, how long have you been doing it, or how long will it take for me to? And it's like you can't. I don't know. Like I can't tell you how long it will take. Just start and we'll see.
And it's good to be. Again, like I didn't get to where I wanted to be in terms of leanness, but there's plenty of time.
Oh yeah.
I'm very patient, and it's so worth again being at that maintenance and getting back into a good space, both mentally and physically. And then you can go into fat loss because it's phases like that. It's not just diet as hard as you can for 1 year. It's like no, that will not work. You know,
diet-
you need
diet
to
is key.
come out of diets, come into maintenance. And I mean, I am just loving maintenance, you know.
Yeah. So how's maintenance going?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm back
Loving it?
what I was bulking on last year, but
Yeah.
have only put on about a kilo. So it's
a good
gone
place,
really, really
yeah.
well. And
Yeah.
I think I started taking creatine again, and I forgot how amazing it is. Like, I notice immediately the difference in strength, and I think that's the most exciting thing for me right now, is just seeing all my lifts going up every single week.
Devil's juice, anabolic to the max.
Yeah, and with the Carbex, oh
A lot
my goodness, Carbex is my favorite
A lot
thing
of women.
ever. It is game changing. Like, there's some supplements you take, you're like, I don't notice anything. Maybe they're doing good, you know, like omega-3 or.
Yeah, maybe they are.
But
maybe.
Carbex and creatine, wow, they have revolutionized my training. Just
So yeah, with creatine, I take a little bit during training. Like, so I have my pre-training carbs and pre-training drink, and then I have an intra, which is carbs, EAAs, and creatine. Then I have a post-training drink, which is EAAs and creatine. Because studies show post-training you get the most out of creatine.
yeah.
But I like to have a little bit intro as well. But yeah, so you know, so I'm probably on somewhere between 5 and 10 grams of creatine a day. But I think that's good for the brain health.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating. I find that research on creatine and ignition. There's a great podcast. I don't know if you guys listen to Martin McDonald Nutrition.
Yes, nutrition.
Kenya. Did you know that?
Oh, nice.
He was not born here, but he lived here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know. I felt like I should just tell him. But
Yeah, yo.
maybe.
Shall we just get him on the podcast because he owes us. He owes Kenya.
Him and
That is so exciting. Yes. Anyway, he's doing a whole series on creatine. Highly recommend going to listen to it, because they've done a lot of research in athletes who get concussion, and they're doing stuff into children, and it's like a no-brainer to take creatine. Like, I'm going to get my mum to take creatine.
Right. Well, especially as you get older. So, like, for degenerative diseases, the studies are so good about showing neurological protection. Like, so I have dementia and Alzheimer's running in my family, and it's quite prevalent. So yeah, I'm all about the creatine life.
It's
Because people undereat protein and undereat fish and meats, they have a very lower creatine level. And this is like a lot of vegetarians, and there's a lot of vegetarians in Kenya, especially in the Indian community, who aren't getting enough creatine will struggle a little bit later in life with brain function, neurological pathways and such like.
Yeah, and I mean they did. I think there were studies with vegetarians and how the results were even more dramatic with them than meat eaters. And now I can honestly fully say I've noticed the strength gains. And it's just a no-brainer supplement to take. It's not going to break your bank.
And it's so well studied. It's not dangerous.
It's not dangerous.
Follow the recommended guidelines. Yes, they can be a little bit of water retention, especially.
That'll be the hard part. Getting to actually take it, because I mean it's the most researched supplement, but people still.
Well, women think it's a male supplement. So when I did that reel about the creatine, so many women were like, "Yes, I." So scared of creatine. It's a man supplement, and you will get huge.
And a lot of men think it's steroids. So it's like
there's a lot of idiots walking around the world. Right?
Yeah.
What we got to say is, like, there's so much misinformation. It's a very well studied supplement. It is a very important supplement, as one that is being underconsumed by the vast majority of people. So as it says, it's a no-brainer, literally, for your brain. And I say this to all my new clients. I said, look, if you're going to do any get any supplement, get creatine, because not even for training, just for life.
Yeah, just for
just
life.
For life.
Yeah. Forget the BCAAs. Go for creatine.
Yeah, exactly.
Much more.
Dump the crap. Dump all these extra things, the electrolyte drinks or whatever it may be, and focus on getting proper important things. I did that post on what's the important supplements.
Yep.
Creatine, omega oils, vitamin D, pretty much sorted.
Yeah, I've actually considered taking vitamin D again, because I mean, yes, we live in a sunny place, but we're inside most of the day. Even more so if you are dark skinned.
Yeah, the darker your skin is, the more vitamin D3 you need. And a lot of people don't realise they're under consuming just due to melanin in skin tone.
And studies have shown if you play Call of Duty for more than 2 hours a day inside, you will have low vitamin D.
I'm going to.
I'm joking, but
text again, like,
I take vitamin D3.
Yeah, no, I think I'm gonna start taking it, because Leon's like the other day, you're so white. I'm like, I am white. Yes. But it's true. I only go out in the sun, and I wear long sleeved anyway, because I don't want to get sunburned.
Looking extra white, and I was like, whoa.
Well, that's the thing, and I think it is important because people spend more time inside working office jobs. With lockdown, people are outside. We're outside a lot less. The other thing I tell people, especially if you are an expat living in Kenya, you get your vitamin D from the sun, you lay out. But when you go back to UK, you don't take a supplement, or wherever it may be in Northern Hemisphere, cool place. So you go back, say, for Christmas, and you're there for a long period of time. You use up all your stores.
Yeah.
But when you get back to Kenya, you often fall ill from all the traveling, because your immunity drops because you've got low levels of vitamin D now in your body, because you've used it all up just surviving the winter somewhere. So you need to make sure you keep an even level throughout the year. The easiest way to check that is to have a supplement.
Yeah, just take it. I mean, again, leave the spirulina and the there are not really any studies.
Stop wasting money on probiotics.
Exactly.
Stop wasting money on some sort of weird gut tea or whatever it is, and just do the important stuff.
Like a good quality omega-3, they are expensive. But if you're not consuming fatty fish, which a lot of people don't here, go for a good quality omega-3.
Fatty fish.
Go for your vitamin D. And again, that's not too expensive, I don't think.
And creatine.
And creatine, like, boom. And if you're zinc is a good one, and magnesium is also
that's the thing. So what I suggest to people is mainly get a multivitamin and multi-mineral. You can get that in one go. Just have that, just because it's quite useful. Omega krill oil, if you can, if you're not a vegetarian, because krill oil is probably the best source of omega-3. A vitamin D. And then the only other thing I suggest to people is, especially to women, is whey protein, only because people are vast under-eaters of protein. And if you don't have a good appetite, whey protein's going to have to become your friend to supplement maybe with a smoothie or a drink, instead of, rather than missing a meal because you're not hungry, reach to the whey. So it's probably in that order. I would say probably omega-3 being the most important, vitamin D, creatine, in that sort of order, then a multivitamin, which you could get from food, but if you're already under eating, probably not. But then whey as the last one. But don't waste your money on. You don't need BCAAs. You don't even really say EAAs. I get, but I don't necessarily need them. I just like to have them.
Yeah, that's when you've mastered the basics and you want to.
Yeah, exactly. Vast majority of people don't need intracarbs, don't need EAAs. They're not training hard enough anyway. So keep to what are the most important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say also, if you reduce the fat in your actual food, what I do is I have very lean meats and fish or whatever, and then add fat back in by olive oil after. Don't cook with it.
Yeah.
I add it back in once I've cooked in my bowl. I just get a tablespoon, a measured little cup thing.
Yeah.
10 grams or whatever, pour that on the top, job done, every meal. Then you get those omegas back without altering their state through cooking. You know exactly you're getting that oil back in.
Yeah, no, I think that's great tips.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, we've already been talking for an hour. I think that's a good place to end our first episode of season 5. And we will be back next week, and hopefully we'll have some interesting speakers in this season. And like we always say, please, if you have any topics you want us to discuss, if you enjoyed the case studies, we can do more of those. If there are any guests you would particularly like us to get, Andy can try, slide into their DMs. But yes, your feedback is always most appreciated. And actually a goal of mine is, I need to practice what we preach. I want to go and leave good reviews on the podcasts that I like, because I don't do that. And we're telling you to do that, and I don't do that.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. We all should do it.
Because the podcasts I listen to, I love. And it's a thing of mine now. Even posts I like on Instagram, people I like, tell them. It means so much. It really, really does. Like, when someone takes the time out of their day to say something constructive or nice to you, it's just like, wow, thank you. So that is
also, you know what I'm really bad at doing? If I stay in an Airbnb writing reviews, or going on holiday writing a review, I'm terrible for that. I'll have the best time and then just never leave a review. And it doesn't cost me anything to say, oh yeah, no, I had a great stay here, really like these people, whatever, because it doesn't, we should be supporting things we believe in. Yeah. Same with posts we believe in, sharing them and whatever it may be.
Yeah. And I mean, not only does that help your engagement, but it's just such a nice thing to do, because I love it when people take the time to comment. And so I'm going to make the effort to do that. And I'm going to do that on my favorite podcasts. So I hope y'all do too.
All right. See you next
week.
Yes,
I'm afraid Leon has been looking very dark in this episode for those who are watching.
I don't know the light.
I'm going to go and get
that D3 in. You might have to double dose him.
I need to on his face. I'm going to make sure that he...
Be like, I stayed in the house and got darker. I thought people would get light. It's like, what happened? But it's just bad light. But what to do?
Right. Well, thanks to everyone for listening, and we will be with you next week with my mom.
Nice.
Podcast. I don't know what to call her because both my brother and I, sorry, this is just tangent. When we were young, we stopped calling our mom and dad when we were quite young. We have nicknames for them. So it'll be very hard on the podcast. I'll be like, to call my mom or Moira, it's weird.
Just call her by a nickname. I'll call her mom.
My mom's nickname
it's an interesting one. You have to wait for it.
My mom's nickname is Boozy. My dad's nickname is Grub. I mean, anyway.
They also call her Dobby.
You know what though? It's quite funny because I went through a spell of calling me by my name and I hated it. And it makes me think of like my dad wouldn't have tolerated giving him a nickname or anything. But like, who are you talking to? Like,
I've never called my dad by his first not third name. Never, not even Mr. Weche.
No, it's really weird. I still now, like when my parents are called, but like my mum, someone says her name, I'm like,
Right, who are you? What?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll navigate that when we get to it next week.
Yes.
All right.
Bye. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Yeah.